The first time I saw him, I thought he was just another shadow. Ravenhurst was drowning in darkness, the air thick with silence. Then he appeared, standing beneath a flickering street lamp, eyes burning like molten amber. One look, and my world shifted. My pulse stuttered. My body forgot how to breathe. He didn't speak at first. He didn't have to. His presence alone felt like gravity, pulling me closer, even as every instinct screamed to run. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something in me already belonged to him. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, dangerous, and impossibly soft. "You shouldn't be here, Soren, unless you're ready to never leave my night again." That night, I stopped being human. My blood, my breath, my heart, they all became his. He is my darkness and my forever. Rain poured like molten silver over the cobblestone streets of Ravenhurst, washing the city in a trembling, dissembling, flickering light. Soren pulled his coat tighter, the fabric doing little to ward off the chill that seeped into his bones. The streets were unusually empty tonight, the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums, making every drip of water sound like a distant heartbeat. He had always felt different, fragile, yet strangely attuned to shadows. But tonight, the weight of that difference pressed harder. A sudden gust of wind nearly knocked him off balance, sending a shiver racing up his spine. That was when he saw him. The world narrowed down to that gaze. He should have run, he knew it. His instincts screamed danger, but instead, his legs froze, rooted in fascination and fear. There was something magnetic, almost predatory, yet elegant about the stranger, something ancient. Alaric's lips curved into a subtle, knowing smile, and Soren's chest tightened. "You shouldn't be here," the vampire murmured, voice smooth, like velvet brushing against steel. I live here," Soren stammered, though his voice sounded small, tentative even to his own ears. Alaric's smile deepened, revealing just the slightest hint of fangs. "Do you? Or do you merely survive, human?" The question sent an unfamiliar heat racing through Soren's veins. He wanted to shrink back, but curiosity, raw and irrepressible, held him in place. I survive," he whispered. For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the patter of rain. And then Alaric stepped closer, each movement deliberate, measured, like a predator circling prey, yet not threatening in the expected way. His amber eyes didn't just look at Soren, they saw him. Every corner of his mind, every buried fear, every hidden desire. "You're unusual," Alaric said softly, "not like the others. There's something in your blood." Soren's stomach twisted. Blood. He'd heard words like that before in stories, whispers about vampires and immortals, but never imagined it would be real, and certainly never imagined this. Why are you looking at me like that?" His voice wavered, betraying more than he intended. Alaric tilted his head, examining him with an intensity that made Soren's heart stutter. "Because I see potential, and something far more dangerous than you know." The air between them was charged, thick with a tension Soren didn't yet understand. And in that moment, under the rain and the lamplight, something shifted. A bond forming that neither of them fully controlled, a pull neither could resist. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating Alaric's face in a flash of brilliance, pale and impossibly perfect. Soren shivered, a part of him terrified, another part inexplicably drawn forward. And then, without warning, Alaric stepped back, fading into the shadows of the alley as if he had never been there. Yet the memory of those amber eyes lingered, sinking into Soren's mind, awakening something ancient and stirring deep within him. Soren didn't know it yet, but his life had shifted irreversibly. The storm had brought Alaric to him. And nothing, neither day nor night, neither fear nor desire, would ever be the same again. The rain had stopped by the time Soren returned to his small apartment overlooking the narrow streets of Ravenhurst. Yet the storm hadn't left him. Its echo lingered in the racing of his heart, in the chill that crawled beneath his skin, and most of all, in the amber eyes that haunted the corners of his vision. He tried to focus on mundane things, the small stack of books on his desk, the kettle waiting to boil, the faint smell of old parchment and damp wood. But everything seemed muted, insignificant, compared to that single moment under the alley's shadow. Sleep eluded him that night. Every shadow in his room felt alive, every creak of the building a whisper meant for him alone. He could still see Alaric's lips, the faintest curve that suggested amusement, secrets, and something more dangerous, a hunger not quite mortal, not quite tame. It was well past midnight when he heard it. The softest rustle, like silk brushing against stone. Soren froze, every nerve screaming alert. "Who's there?" His voice cracked, betraying the fear curling like smoke around his chest. "Do not be afraid," came the low, velvety voice, unmistakable and impossibly close. He whirled, heart hammering, and there he was. Alaric, standing in the shadows of his doorway, leaning casually as if the walls themselves belonged to him. The dim light from the street outside glinted across his pale skin, making him appear unreal, ethereal, almost otherworldly. How did you get in?" Soren stammered, though he already knew the answer was beyond ordinary explanation. Alaric's amber eyes met his, calm, unyielding, and piercing into places Soren had never let anyone see. "I did not come in. I was always here." Soren's chest tightened. The words were simple, yet the meaning twisted like smoke into his mind. Always here. Was he talking about the apartment, the street, or something far more intimate, more eternal? "You should not invite yourself in," Soren whispered, though the words sounded weaker than he intended. "And yet you did not stop me," Alaric countered, his lips twitching in that same faint smile that both unnerved and intrigued Soren. "You did not move. You did not flee. You watched." Soren's stomach nodded. He wanted to deny it, to scream that he had been terrified, but that would be a lie. Something had rooted him to that spot. Something about Alaric, his presence, the pull in his gaze, made flight impossible, made reason irrelevant. Alaric stepped forward, and for the first time, Soren felt the subtle heat radiating off him, the energy that seemed to thrum in the very air between them. "I saw something in you," Alaric murmured. "Something dangerous, something valuable." Soren's breath hitched. "Me? Dangerous?" "You do not yet know," Alaric said softly, tilting his head. "Your blood calls to me. Your lineage, it stirs powers even you do not understand." The words should have terrified him. Blood, powers, vampire. Soren's logical mind screamed at him to flee, to run and never look back. But the other part of him, the part that had always felt different, isolated, untamed, stirred at the words. Something deep inside him recognized the truth, even if he did not yet understand it. Alaric crouched slightly, so their faces were almost level. "You are more than a mortal, Soren. And I'm not one to resist such things." Soren's stomach twisted with a mix of fear, longing, and confusion. Every word from Alaric was a spark, igniting sensations he didn't know existed. Heat pooled in his chest, and a shiver ran down his spine. Why am I drawn to him? Why does my blood feel alive in his presence? Alaric's hand hovered near Soren, almost touching, and the electricity of the near contact was unbearable. "Do you feel it?" Alaric asked, voice barely more than a whisper. Yet it reverberated through Soren's mind. Soren swallowed hard. "Feel what?" "The pull. The hunger. The inevitability of this," Alaric said, letting his hand drop, but the tension lingered, wrapping them both in a cocoon of heat, fear, and something darkly beautiful. The room felt smaller, tighter, the shadows deeper. Soren's pulse raced, and a part of him trembled, realizing with a mix of dread and exhilaration that nothing would ever feel ordinary again. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to run, yet every part of his soul whispered something forbidden. "Stay." Alaric's gaze softened, just for a fraction of a second, enough to make Soren's knees weak. "You cannot imagine what is coming, Soren, but soon you will not have a choice." Before Soren could respond, before his mind could process the impossibility of what was happening, Alaric stepped back, melting into the shadows of the room like smoke through fingers. Only the echo of that amber gaze remained, burning into Soren's mind. Soren sank into his chair, trembling, drenched in a mixture of fear, desire, and awe. His life had shifted irrevocably tonight, and though he did not yet understand it, the threads of fate had already entwined him with Alaric, predator and prey, master and willing captive, desire and danger, bound together under the same storm-dark sky. And somewhere, deep inside, Soren felt a stirring, raw and undeniable, a whisper in the blood. He is yours, and you are his. The days after that stormy night passed in a haze for Soren. Every sound, every shadow seemed to hold Alaric's presence. He tried to ignore it, tried to convince himself it was madness, a figment of his imagination, fueled by exhaustion and the storm. But deep down he knew better. Strange occurrences began to unfold. At first, they were subtle, fleeting visions, at the edge of his perception, whispers he couldn't place, a sense that he was never truly alone. Books on ancient bloodlines and myths, books he had once dismissed as fantasy, now called to him, as if he had always been meant to read them. It was in the library one evening that the first undeniable truth struck him. A heavy tome, leather-bound and etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer under candlelight, fell open before him, as though guided by invisible hands. Soren's eyes fell on a passage. Those of the Arendor line carry the veil in their veins. Mortal in appearance, yet touched by blood older than kingdoms. Their awakening stirs the eyes of those who walk the shadows. Soren's fingers trembled as he read, each word igniting a spark of recognition. Arendor, his family name, a lineage he had always considered nothing more than archaic history. Yet, here it was, alive in whispers of power, of blood that could call to those who belonged to the night. And then it clicked, the amber eyes, the pull. Alaric had not been drawn to him at random. He knew. The memory of the first encounter surged forward. The velvet voice, the predator's calm, the subtle heat, the hand that had almost touched him. Soren's chest tightened. His blood, it had called to Alaric. His lineage had called to him. Night fell faster than usual that evening, draping the city in thick velvet darkness. Soren couldn't stay inside. He had to move, to escape the suffocating thoughts, yet the streets offered no solace. Every shadow seemed alive, and every whispered wind carried Alaric's voice. I see you. The low murmur came from the darkened alley before he even realized he had walked there. Soren froze. He knew the voice, knew the pull that made his knees weak. Why me? He whispered, voice barely audible over the soft rain that had begun again. Alaric emerged from the darkness as if stepping out of a dream, graceful, inevitable, timeless. Because you are not like the others, he said. His amber eyes roamed over Soren with an intensity that bordered on possession. Your blood is rare, valuable, and dangerous, though you do not yet see it. Soren swallowed hard, aware of the tremor in his hands. Dangerous? To whom? He asked. To everyone who underestimates it, and to yourself, Alaric said softly. Your lineage carries a veil older than even I have seen in centuries. Mortals think you are fragile, human, limited, but I can feel it. Power stirs within you, unclaimed, unawakened, waiting. Soren's mind reeled. He wanted to protest, to flee, to convince himself this was impossible. But nothing in him denied the truth. He had felt it. Those subtle currents beneath his skin, the strange pull in his veins, the moments when shadows seemed to bend toward him. And now, he understood. You watch me, Soren said, a whisper tinged with both accusation and awe. All the time. Alaric's lips curved into a faint, unreadable smile. Yes, because every moment without you feels like wasted centuries. The words struck Soren in a way that left him breathless. Wasted centuries. Not a threat, not a boast, something far more intimate, more consuming. Desire, obsession, fascination, it was all there in that single glance, binding them before a word had been fully spoken. Alaric stepped closer, the space between them charged, heavy with heat and tension. Soon, you will understand the weight of your blood, Soren. And then, you will know why I cannot stay away. Soren's heartbeat thundered in his chest. The pull of the vampire, the inevitability of the encounter, the sudden awareness of his own hidden power, everything pressed down on him, suffocating and thrilling at once. For the first time, he felt the fragile line between mortal and immortal blur, and he knew the world as he had known it was gone. And yet, despite the fear, despite the impossible odds, he could not step back. Something in him longed for Alaric's shadow, for the heat of his gaze, for the dangerous promise lingering in the space between them. Alaric leaned closer, his amber eyes locking onto Soren's. Blood will call to blood, Soren, and I will answer. It was not a threat, it was a promise. Soren awoke to the sound of rain thrumming against the window again, though his dreams had been far from restful. Visions of sharp fangs, endless darkness, and Alaric's amber gaze haunted him, leaving him drenched in sweat, heart hammering as though it wanted to escape his chest. The weight of his bloodline pressed on him now with a suffocating intensity. Something ancient, something dangerous stirred in him, and he could no longer ignore it. The city had grown silent as midnight approached, streets slick with rain and glistening under the pale light of the moon. Soren felt compelled to move, restless, drawn toward the alleys that had first brought him face to face with Alaric. He didn't know why, but every instinct told him that tonight something irreversible would happen. And he was right. A low hiss cut through the stillness, a shadow moving faster than humanly possible. From the corner of his eye, he saw them, figures that were not mortal, not entirely. Their eyes glinted with malice, fangs catching the moonlight, movements predatory and precise. Soren froze, his breath caught. He knew immediately these were not ordinary criminals. These were vampires, and they had found him. Panic surged through him, raw and white-hot. He turned to run, heart screaming in terror, but the narrow alleyway offered no escape. His mind raced, trying to remember every lesson in survival, every instinct he had ever been taught. But it was useless against what stalked him. Then a presence, a stronger presence, shifted the air behind him. "Step aside," a voice murmured, smooth and commanding, carrying with it an undercurrent of danger that made even the predators hesitate. Alaric. He appeared from the shadows like a phantom, movement fluid and predatory. The rival vampires froze, sensing the centuries-old power radiating from him. Amber eyes glowed, teeth bared ever so slightly, and the air around him seemed to thrum with raw, intoxicating energy. "Stay back," Alaric said, his voice low, melodic, and deadly. "He is mine." The attackers snarled, and a blur of motion erupted. Alaric moved with impossible speed, fangs glinting, claws flashing, and within moments, the threat was neutralized. The predators were down, unconscious, and Soren stood frozen, trembling, unable to process the scene. Alaric's gaze found him, piercing through the fear that clung to him like a second skin. "Do you see now?" he murmured, stepping closer. "Do you see why I cannot leave you to them, or to yourself?" Soren could barely speak, his mouth dry. I don't understand. Why you?" Alaric silenced him with a single finger pressed lightly against his lips, warm and impossibly soft despite the danger he exuded. "Do not try to understand yet," he whispered. "Only feel. Only know that you belong to the night now, whether you will it or not." Soren's pulse raced. Heat pooled between them, dangerous and alluring, and the shadows seemed to lean closer, wrapping them in a cocoon of darkness. Every instinct screamed fear, yet another, older instinct, buried deep in his bloodline, whispered accept. Alaric's eyes softened just enough to make Soren's knees weaken. "You are extraordinary, Soren, and I will not let anything take you from me, not now, not ever." The words were a vow, but also a promise of something darker, more consuming. Desire, obsession, protection, they all intertwined in the single figure before him. And Soren knew, with a chill that ran down his spine, that there was no returning to the life he had known. As Alaric disappeared into the night, as suddenly as he had appeared, Soren was left standing alone in the alley, drenched in rain and trembling with adrenaline and anticipation. His life had irrevocably changed tonight. Somewhere in the depths of his blood, in the lineage he had only begun to understand, a spark had ignited, one that would draw Alaric ever closer, that would awaken something ancient and hungry in Soren himself. And as he walked back home, soaked and shivering, he realized something terrifying and intoxicating. He did not want to run. He wanted Alaric. The nights in Ravenhurst had grown heavier since that storm, the air thick with secrets and the quiet hum of something ancient awakening. Soren felt it every moment, an invisible thread tugging at him, pulling him toward the darkness he had once feared. Every time the streets whispered, every time shadows flickered unnaturally, he felt Alaric's presence, lingering like smoke he could neither grasp nor resist. It was during one of these nights, under a crescent moon that carved silver lines across the rooftops, that he saw Alaric again. This time, the vampire did not emerge from the shadows. He was the shadows. From the darkness of the alley, he stepped forward, smooth and predatory, but his eyes held something new: curiosity, amusement, and a dangerous kind of patience. "You are restless tonight," Alaric observed, his voice a low melody that resonated in Soren's chest. "Do you not feel the pull, Soren? The world beyond your fragile reality calls to you." Soren's breath hitched. The pull, it had grown stronger, almost unbearable. His blood hummed, alive with something he could not name. I feel it," he whispered, "but I don't understand any of it." Alaric's lips curved into that faint, enigmatic smile that sent shivers down Soren's spine. "You will, in time, you will see the truth. There's a world that exists beyond your mortal understanding, a world where shadows have their own laws, where power is defined by more than mere mortality." He stepped closer, each movement measured, graceful, the air around him thickening with a heat that was both frightening and intoxicating. "And I will be there, every step. Not to control you, not yet, but to guide, to show, to tempt." Soren's pulse quickened, voice barely audible. The words sounded alien in his mouth, yet the idea sent a thrill curling up his spine. Alaric tilted his head, amber eyes gleaming with a predator's delight. "Yes, to show you that fear and desire are not enemies, that danger can be exquisite, that power is a form of seduction." The words wrapped around Soren like silk and steel. Heat pulled in his chest. He wanted to flee, to tell himself this was madness, but something inside him rebelled against caution. Something inside him longed for the darkness, Alaric offered. "You don't know what you're offering me," Soren whispered, more to himself than to Alaric. I'm not ready for this. I shouldn't be drawn to it." Alaric's smile deepened, a predator savoring the stirrings of prey. "Readiness is irrelevant, Soren. The pull is already here. Your blood calls it forth, and I answer. You cannot escape the night, any more than you can escape your own pulse. But you can learn to enjoy it." Soren felt the magnetic pull stronger than ever. He knew he should run. His instincts screamed it, but he could not. Something ancient in his veins stirred in response to Alaric's presence, and he realized with a mixture of awe and fear that this was only the beginning. Alaric circled him slowly, not touching, but letting the faintest brush of air stir the hair at Soren's neck. Every movement, every glance, every word was deliberate. A subtle choreography designed to make Soren tremble, to awaken feelings he did not understand, to make him want. End of sentence. "You are extraordinary," Alaric murmured, voice husky, tinged with both admiration and hunger. "I have walked centuries, Soren. I've seen power rise and fall, love bloom and wither. But you are different. Even unawakened, even mortal. You stir something I have not felt in lifetimes." Soren's stomach twisted, caught between fear and an almost unbearable yearning. I don't know if I can." "You will," Alaric interrupted softly, stepping back just enough to let Soren breathe, to let him feel the ache of anticipation. "Because desire, because fate, because your blood leaves no other choice." And then, as if to punctuate the moment, Alaric's gaze softened, lingering on Soren with a heat that made his knees weak and his heart race in a way that was both terrifying and thrilling. "Come with me," he whispered. "Tonight, you will see what lies beyond the veil of mortality. You will see what the night truly offers." Soren hesitated. The rational part of his mind screamed warnings: danger, fear, mortality. And yet, the pull was undeniable. His blood thrummed, his heart raced, and he felt a thrill he had never known before. The choice, it seemed, was no longer his to make. With a trembling breath, he stepped forward. And in that instant, the mortal world he had known began to crumble, replaced by shadows, heat, and the intoxicating promise of something dark, eternal, and utterly forbidden. Alaric's amber eyes shone brighter in the moonlight, and for the first time, he allowed himself to savor the knowledge that Soren was finally responding. The game had begun. The streets of Ravenhurst were quiet that night, cloaked in a fog that seemed almost alive, curling around the corners like fingers seeking to touch the living. Soren walked cautiously, every sense alert, yet every step pulled him closer to the alley where Alaric waited. His mind screamed warnings. This is dangerous. Stay away. You don't know what you're doing. But his blood, his instincts, refused to obey. Alaric was there, leaning against the brick wall, shadows clinging to him like a second skin. The moment Soren saw him, his pulse jumped. He was pale, impossibly perfect, his amber eyes gleaming with that predatory warmth that both terrified and thrilled Soren. "You shouldn't be here," Soren said, though his voice was weaker than he intended. Every syllable carried a tremor he could not suppress. Alaric pushed off the wall and stepped closer, his movements smooth and deliberate, almost hypnotic. "And yet you are," he said softly, letting the words hang in the mist. "Even when you resist, the night draws you to me. Your blood recognizes me, Soren. Your instincts, they do not lie." Soren's stomach twisted. Every nerve screamed in warning, yet the pull was undeniable. He wanted to run, to flee to safety, but his legs betrayed him, rooting him to the spot. I don't want this," he whispered, though even as he spoke, his body betrayed him, leaning subconsciously toward the warmth radiating from Alaric. Alaric's smile was faint, knowing, and dangerous. He circled Soren slowly, letting the mist and shadows part around them. "Do you understand that desire is not your enemy?" he murmured, voice low, hypnotic. "Fear is not your enemy. Mortality, it is merely a cage." Soren shivered. Every glance, every word, every subtle movement ignited a fire within him that he did not understand. "But you're not like me," he said, trembling. You're dangerous." "That is precisely why I'm here," Alaric whispered, stopping just behind him, letting Soren feel the heat emanating from his presence. "Because I am dangerous, and you are awakening. Every instinct in your blood is stirring. You are ready, even if you do not yet know it." Soren's mind spun, caught between terror and something raw, unnameable. He could feel it in his veins, the blood calling, thrumming, alive in a way it never had before. And every heartbeat seemed to echo Alaric's gaze, burning into him, consuming him. Alaric's hand brushed against Soren's arm, lightly, almost teasingly. Yet the touch sent shivers racing through him, igniting a fire that left him breathless. "Do you feel it?" Alaric asked softly, voice closer now, warm and intoxicating. "The hunger, the pull, the inevitability." I... Soren could not form words. He wanted to pull away, but his body refused. "Yes," he admitted finally, voice shaking. "I feel it." Alaric's lips curved into a smile that was both gentle and predatory. "Good," he murmured, "because the night does not forgive hesitation. It only rewards those who answer its call. And you are answering." Every word, every movement from Alaric was a lesson in restraint and temptation. He did not force himself upon Soren, yet every glance, every subtle touch, every word wove a web around him. Soren's breath came faster, pulse pounding, the ache between fear and desire growing unbearable. "You are extraordinary," Alaric whispered, leaning so close that Soren could feel the warmth of his breath against his ear. "Even unawakened, even mortal, you stir something ancient and powerful. I have walked centuries, Soren. I have not felt like this, not in lifetimes." Soren trembled, caught between fleeing and surrendering. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why choose me?" Alaric's amber eyes softened slightly, a dangerous tenderness in their depths. "Because your blood, your soul, your very essence, it calls to me, and I cannot resist. I do not wish to resist. You are mine to watch, mine to tempt, mine to awaken." The words hung in the fog, intoxicating and binding. Soren's mind screamed for reason, for distance, for escape, but his body and his blood betrayed him. Heat pooled in his chest, desire and fear intertwining until they were indistinguishable. Alaric stepped back just enough to let Soren breathe, letting the anticipation linger. Soon, Soren, soon you will understand fully. And then you will choose, or you will surrender. Either way, the night will claim you. Soren's knees weakened. The pull, the danger, the intoxicating heat of Alaric's presence, it was irresistible. And somewhere deep inside, he realized with a mixture of fear and exhilaration that part of him wanted to be claimed, wanted to surrender to this darkness he could not resist. The night wrapped around them, silent and heavy, as if holding its breath, and in the misted streets of Ravenhurst, two destinies began to intertwine, the slow dance of temptation, desire, and obsession beginning its inexorable rhythm. The city had fallen silent, but inside Soren, a storm raged fiercer than any outside. He had tried to deny it, tried to resist the pull of Alaric's presence, but it was futile. Every heartbeat, every pulse of his blood, sang a siren song he could no longer ignore. And tonight, Alaric was waiting for him. The alley smelled of rain-soaked stone and the faint tang of iron in the air. Blood, perhaps, Soren thought, and shivered. He saw Alaric leaning against the wall, one shoulder casually pressed to the brick, amber eyes glinting like molten fire. The vampire's gaze swept over him with the kind of intensity that made Soren ache in places he did not know existed. "You came," Alaric murmured, his voice soft yet commanding. "You cannot resist the night any more than you can resist me." Soren swallowed, trying to steady the tremor in his voice. I don't know if I want this. I don't know what's happening to me." Alaric pushed himself off the wall, closing the distance between them slowly, deliberately. "It is not a question of wanting, Soren. You are not a child lost in dreams. You are awakening, and awakening is never gentle." Soren's gaze flickered away, ashamed at the truth in those words. Since the storm, he had felt things he could not explain. Flickers of power, instincts sharp and unfamiliar, shadows moving when he willed them not to. And all the while, Alaric's presence had been a constant, a tether he could not cut. Alaric's hand reached out, brushing a lock of damp hair from Soren's forehead. The touch was electric, a heat that ignited his nerves, and Soren could not draw back. "You are frightened," Alaric said softly, amber eyes darkening with concern and hunger. "And yet, you are drawn to this, to me. You feel the same fire I feel, don't you?" Soren swallowed hard. "Yes," he admitted, voice trembling. "But I don't understand it. I've never felt like this before." Alaric's gaze softened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath his predatory veneer. "I have walked centuries," he said quietly, voice almost a whisper. "I have seen kings fall, empires crumble, hearts betray. And yet, you, Soren, you stir something in me I thought lost to time. I am bound to you before you even know it, and I will not let that bind weaken." The words struck Soren like a physical blow. His chest tightened, a mix of awe, fear, and desire pooling in his stomach. "Bound to me?" he whispered. "Yes," Alaric murmured, stepping closer so their breaths mingled. "Your blood, your soul, your very essence, it calls to me, and I answer. You are not just a mortal I watch. You are the storm that stirs my eternity, the pulse that wakes what I have long restrained. You are mine in ways you cannot yet comprehend." Soren's knees weakened, a tremor running through him. Fear and longing tangled into a knot he could not untie. I don't know if I can handle this," he whispered. Alaric's fingers brushed his jaw lightly, lifting his face so their eyes met. "You will," he said softly, voice husky, carrying centuries of patience and obsession. "Not because you have a choice, but because your soul, your blood, your very being cannot resist. And neither can I." The alley seemed to shrink around them, the mist thickening as if to cocoon them in their own world. Heat and tension crackled between them, dangerous and intoxicating. Soren's pulse raced, his breath came in shallow gasps. Fear and desire danced together in a consuming rhythm he could not escape. "You draw me in, awaken me, tempt me, and yet you resist." That resistance, it only makes the fire burn brighter. He felt the raw heat, the pull, the unrelenting intensity of Alaric's gaze and presence. And in that moment, a truth crystallized deep within him. He was no longer merely mortal. He was being claimed, awakened, drawn into a world from which there was no return. Alaric's hand lingered near Soren's, the tension thick, almost unbearable. "Soon," he whispered, amber eyes burning, "you will know the full extent of what you are. And when that comes, you will understand why I am here, why I cannot leave, why I cannot resist you." Soren's breath hitched. He did not yet fully understand, but part of him already knew the truth. He wanted Alaric. He wanted the danger, the fire, the obsession, and the night, the eternal, dark, seductive night, was beginning to claim him. The night hung thick and heavy over Ravenhurst, fog curling around the narrow streets like living tendrils. Soren's senses were sharpened to a painful degree. Every whisper of wind, every shift of shadow, every heartbeat echoing in his chest was magnified, alive. He could feel it now, a heat running through his veins, a pulse that was no longer just his own. Something ancient stirred deep within, and the pull of Alaric, of the night, became nearly unbearable. Alaric emerged from the mist before him, silent as a shadow, eyes glowing amber with an intensity that made Soren tremble. "You feel it, don't you?" he murmured, voice low and intoxicating. "The stir of your blood, the awakening of your line, the veil that runs through you, it calls to me." Soren's breath hitched, chest tightening with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I feel it," he admitted, voice trembling. Something inside me, it's alive, it's calling." Alaric's lips curved into a smile, predatory and tender all at once. "Yes," he whispered, closing the distance, letting Soren feel the heat radiating from him. "It is alive, and it calls to me. It always has." Soren's knees weakened. The pull was stronger than ever, raw and irresistible, like a storm surging through his blood. He wanted to flee, to deny it, but the need to succumb, to reach out, was overwhelming. Every fiber of his being screamed in harmony with the pulse Alaric had awakened. Alaric reached out, fingers brushing Soren's wrist lightly, a touch that sent electricity dancing up his arm. "Your blood is extraordinary," he murmured, voice husky, "rare, potent. It stirs something dark and ancient in me, something I have not allowed myself to feel in centuries." Soren shivered, caught between fear and desire. I don't understand. Why me?" "Because you are extraordinary," Alaric said softly, amber eyes burning into Soren's. "Even mortal, unawakened. You draw me. You tempt me. You are the fire I cannot resist." He said, "Shh." Soren felt the heat of the words sear him from the inside out. His pulse raced in tandem with the pull that twisted through his veins. Alaric, something deep inside him, ached with recognition, a longing he had never understood until this night. His blood, his line, his very being, it wanted this. It wanted Alaric. Alaric's hand lingered near Soren's neck, so close that the faintest heat brushed his skin. "Soon," Alaric whispered, voice low and almost reverent, "your blood will fully awaken, and then nothing will ever be the same. You will understand why I cannot leave, why I cannot resist, why I desire you in ways I have not allowed myself for centuries." Soren trembled, caught in the pull of his own awakening and Alaric's obsession. His body and mind teetered on the edge, fear and pleasure intertwined in a dangerous, exquisite tension. Every instinct told him to flee, yet every fiber of his being yearned to surrender, to give in, to feel. Alaric's amber eyes softened, yet the intensity never wavered. "I have walked through centuries, Soren," he murmured. "I have faced kings and monsters, love and betrayal, and yet you stir me like no other. You awaken the hunger I have restrained for lifetimes. You are my inevitable." Soren's breath caught. The words, the gaze, the heat, the pull, they were all consuming him. And somewhere deep in the marrow of his bones, he realized he did not want to escape. He wanted the fire, the danger, the obsessive desire that Alaric radiated. The fog wrapped around them, silent witness to the unspoken promise, to the awakening pulse that connected them. The night had claimed them both, binding them in a dangerous, intoxicating rhythm. Blood, desire, obsession, and fate intertwined. Soren's knees weakened, his heartbeat thundered in his ears, and he whispered, almost to himself, "I can't resist you." Alaric's lips curved into a slow, predatory smile. "I know," he murmured, "and that is only the beginning." The city of Ravenhurst had another face by night, one of shadows, secrets, and whispered power. Alaric moved through it like a phantom, Soren following close behind, heart hammering, senses alive in ways he had never imagined. Every alleyway, every fog-draped corner, every shuttered window seemed to hum with energy, with life unseen by mortal eyes. "You will see soon," Alaric murmured, his amber eyes glinting in the dim streetlight. "The world you know is only a veil. Beyond it lies truth, power, desire, danger, and you, Soren, are meant to walk within it." Soren shivered, not from cold, but from the awareness of how much had changed in mere nights. He had already felt the pulse of his own awakening, the stirrings of the veil in his blood. Now, with Alaric leading him deeper into darkness, he felt every instinct scream at him: fear, exhilaration, and a yearning that defied explanation. They entered a narrow courtyard, hidden behind wrought iron gates, mist curling over cobblestones. The air smelled of damp earth, roses, and something darker, metallic, a scent that made Soren's pulse quicken. Shadows moved unnaturally along the walls, stretching toward them, bending around Alaric as if acknowledging his command. "You see?" Alaric whispered, voice low and intimate, letting the sound brush Soren's ear. "The night obeys me, and soon it will obey you too. Your blood, your veil, will awaken fully. And when it does, you will understand what I have tried to tell you all along. You are extraordinary." Soren's stomach twisted, his knees trembling beneath him. I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted, voice shaking. The moment he spoke, he realized it was a lie. Deep inside, he was ready, or at least part of him was. The pull of the bloodline, the fire Alaric had awakened in him, the intoxicating heat of the vampire's gaze, they left no room for doubt. Alaric's hand brushed his arm lightly, almost casual, yet the touch set his veins alight. "Readiness is irrelevant," he murmured. "The pull is already here. You cannot resist what you are becoming. And I will not let you resist me either." Soren felt his pulse spike, his mind spinning, desire and fear tangled in a knot so tight it made him dizzy. He could feel Alaric's gaze drilling into him, claiming him, even without a touch. Every nerve in his body sang with awareness, every heartbeat syncing with the vampire's presence. You're different from anyone I've ever met," Alaric said softly, stepping closer, letting the space between them crackle with tension. "Even mortal, you stir something in me I thought lost. You are not just extraordinary. You are inevitable." Soren's breath caught, body trembling. "I don't understand. Why me?" Alaric's smile was slow, predatory, yet filled with a warmth that made Soren ache. "Because you are the one I have been waiting for," he whispered, letting the words hang between them. "And because your blood, your power, calls to me in ways I cannot deny. You are mine even before you fully awaken. And I will not let you go." Soren's knees weakened, and he stumbled slightly, caught in the gravity of Alaric's pull. The vampire's hand shot out, steadying him, fingers brushing lightly against his waist. The heat of the touch seared through him, leaving him breathless. "Do you feel it?" Alaric murmured, voice a caress. "The veil in your blood, the fire in your veins? That is only the beginning. Soon, the night will claim you completely, and you will understand how bound we are, body, blood, and soul." Soren's head spun. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every fiber of his being ached to surrender, to give in, to feel. And beneath the fear, beneath the danger, beneath the unknown, there was a truth he could not deny. He wanted Alaric. He wanted the night. He wanted the pull, the obsession, the intoxicating danger that came with being drawn into the vampire world. Alaric's amber eyes softened, yet the fire within them never dimmed. "Tonight," he murmured, letting a finger trace along Soren's jaw, "you begin to see who you are. And I will show you pleasures, dangers, and powers you have only dreamed of. But know this, Soren. Once you walk this path, there is no turning back. Soren swallowed hard, chest tight, blood pounding in his ears. The pull of his own awakening, the fire of Alaric's obsession, the seductive danger of the night. It was irresistible. He took a trembling step forward. I'm ready, he whispered, voice shaking but resolute. Alaric's lips curved into a slow, victorious smile. Good, he murmured, amber eyes glowing brighter in the mist, because you are mine, and the night, the eternal, infinite night, is ours to claim. The fog curled around them like a lover. The shadows stretched and twisted, and in the silence of the courtyard, Soren felt the first true tremors of power surge through his veins. The veil awakening, the pulse of eternity connecting him to Alaric in ways mortal words could never capture. The descent into darkness had begun. The streets beyond the courtyard were darker than Soren had ever imagined. Fog coiled like living silk around wrought iron fences and cobblestone paths, muting sound and blurring shapes. He could feel every heartbeat in his chest, every breath rasping in his throat, every pulse of his own blood echoing like a drumbeat of warning. You must learn quickly, Alaric murmured, walking beside him, voice smooth, predatory. The world you stepped into is not gentle. Every shadow could conceal a predator, every whisper could hide a threat, and your blood, your power, draws them like moths to flame. Soren shivered, both from the chill and the intensity of the words. His senses were already heightened. He could hear faint footfalls, distant murmurs, and the subtle shift of the fog as if it were breathing around them. I don't know if I can, he admitted, voice trembling. It's too much. Alaric's hand shot out, gripping his wrist firmly, stopping him mid-step. No, he said softly, amber eyes locking onto his. You can, and you will, because fear, while natural, is nothing compared to what you are becoming, and you are becoming remarkable. Soren's pulse thudded violently. The touch of Alaric's hand burned along his skin, a heat that both reassured and inflamed every nerve ending. He swallowed hard, trembling. I don't want to fail. I don't want to. You will not fail, Alaric interrupted, voice low and dangerous. Because I will not allow it. Every step you take, I am there. Every danger that comes, I am there. You are mine, Soren. Every heartbeat, every drop of blood, every shiver of fear or desire, mine. And I will claim you in ways you have yet to imagine. How? Soren's knees weakened at the words, his chest tightening. The possessiveness in Alaric's voice was intoxicating, terrifying, and thrilling all at once. He felt the undeniable truth of it, the fire that burned in Alaric's amber eyes, the intensity that claimed him before any touch had landed. A sudden shift in the fog snapped his attention to the shadows. Movement, fast, silent, predatory. Something lurked, and Soren could feel it before he saw it, a creature of the night, drawn to the same pulse that had awakened him. Stay behind me, Alaric commanded, voice a low growl. Do not step forward unless I allow it. Soren's stomach twisted, both with fear and anticipation. He could see Alaric's eyes glow brighter in the darkness, his presence radiating power, a predatory elegance that seemed to command the shadows themselves. Every instinct screamed awe, every nerve alive with awareness. The creature stepped closer, a vampire, older, dangerous, its eyes glittering with hunger. It had smelled Soren's blood, sensed the awakening of his veil, and moved to claim him. Alaric's lips curved into a predatory smile. You see? He murmured, voice low, almost reverent. This is why I cannot leave you to your own devices. Every predator, every shadow, every hunger in this world, it will come for you. And I will not allow it. In a blow of movement, Alaric struck, fangs flashing, claws slicing the fog as the older vampire fell, unconscious before it could even fully react. Soren's breath hitched, heart pounding violently. How? Alaric stepped back, amber eyes still glowing, gaze claiming him wholly. Control, he said softly. Focus, power, awareness. These are the first lessons, Soren. And the most important, you are not alone. You are mine, and I will protect what is mine. Soren trembled, shaken to his core. Fear, Awe and something far more intimate pulsed through him. He could feel the fire of Alaric's possessiveness, the obsession that radiated from the vampire in waves, and the pull between them deepened, dangerous, dark, and intoxicating. Alaric's fingers brushed lightly against Soren's arm, a subtle claim, yet enough to make his blood burn. This world will test you, Soren, but with me by your side, you will not only survive, you will awaken fully. You will become extraordinary. And Alaric's gaze burned into him, amber eyes glowing like molten gold. I will not let anyone or anything take you from me. Soren's knees weakened, pulse racing, mind spinning with the intoxicating mix of fear, desire, and awe. He realized with a shiver that ran deep into his bones that he no longer wanted to escape. He wanted Alaric. He wanted the darkness. He wanted the pull, the obsession, the danger. And he understood, with a clarity that terrified him, that the night and Alaric had already claimed him completely. The fog swirled around them, silent witness to the unspoken vow, to the pulse of blood, obsession, and desire that bound them. And in that haunted, silver-lit courtyard, Soren felt the first true tremors of his power, and of a bond that would consume them both. The courtyard had grown quiet again, but inside Soren, the storm raged louder than ever. His blood thrummed with a new, raw awareness, each heartbeat echoing the awakening of the veil within him. Shadows seemed to bend toward him, alive, and the fog coiled around his legs like eager fingers. Every nerve in his body was alight, and all he could see, all he could feel, was Alaric, predatory, intense, impossibly close. "You feel it now," Alaric murmured, amber eyes glinting with hunger and something softer, almost reverent. "The power in your veins, the pulse that awakens with every drop of blood. It is yours, Soren, and it calls to me." Soren's breath hitched, his pulse raced, mingling with the pull of Alaric's presence. "It's overwhelming," he admitted, voice trembling. I don't know if I can control it." Alaric stepped closer, letting the heat radiating from him wash over Soren. Every movement was deliberate, predatory, yet impossibly intimate. "Control comes with surrender," he whispered, letting a finger trace lightly along Soren's jaw. "And surrender is exquisite." Soren shivered, caught between fear and desire. The warmth of Alaric's hand burned through him, awakening a fire he had never known. His veins thrummed with the power of the veil, and a deeper, darker pulse resonated in his chest, an echo of Alaric's own hunger. "You are extraordinary," Alaric murmured, voice husky. "Even mortal, even unawakened, you stir something I have not felt in centuries. And now, as your blood awakens fully, I am undone. Every thought, every breath, every desire is yours, mine." Soren's knees weakened, breath catching in his throat. The intensity of the vampire's gaze, the heat, the dangerous allure, it consumed him. You want me?" he whispered, disbelief and yearning tangled in his voice. Alaric's smile was slow, predatory, and utterly consuming. "I do not just want you," he said softly, voice thick with obsession. "I am bound to you, consumed by you. Your blood, your pulse, your awakening. It is a fire I cannot resist. You are mine, Soren, in every sense that matters." The heat, the intensity, they ignited something deep within Soren. Fear mingled with desire, every nerve alight with awareness. He felt the pull of the night, the blood, and Alaric entwined with his own rising hunger. Every heartbeat, every shiver, every breath demanded surrender. Alaric leaned closer, letting his lips brush the shell of Soren's ear, voice a low, intoxicating whisper. "Tonight, Soren, you will feel the full pulse of your blood. You will taste the danger, the power, the obsession, and you will understand why I cannot leave you, why I cannot resist you, why you are inevitable." Soren's body trembled. The world had narrowed to the heat of Alaric's presence, the pull of his own awakening, and the intoxicating intensity that surged between them. I'm ready," he whispered, voice breaking, surrendering to the storm inside him. Alaric's amber eyes glimmered with triumph, obsession, and something dangerously tender. Good, he murmured, pressing just close enough that the warmth of his chest brushed Soren's. Because once this night is over, there will be no turning back. The fire, the blood, the desire. It will bind us together in ways you cannot yet imagine. Soren trembled, pulse racing, body alive with the fire of awakening and desire. He understood in that moment that the slow burn, the tension, the danger, all of it, had only been a prelude. What awaited him now was a fire that could consume them both, a passion intertwined with obsession, danger, and the intoxicating pull of the night. Alaric's hand trailed down Soren's arm, gripping him lightly, claiming him, and Soren felt the pulse of their connection resonate in every fiber of his being. Feel it, Alaric murmured, lips grazing the curve of his jaw. Feel what you are becoming, and let it bind you to me. And Soren did. The fire surged, shadows bent, the fog coiled around them, and in the darkness of Ravenhurst, two fates entwined, blood, desire, obsession, and power, converging in a dangerous, exquisite symphony. The fog of Ravenhurst seemed almost alive that night, curling around the cobblestones, whispering secrets only Soren could feel. Every breath he took was thick with anticipation, every heartbeat a drum of warning and desire. The veil inside him surged, a tide he could no longer control, calling to Alaric, binding him in ways both terrifying and intoxicating. You are ready, Alaric murmured, voice low, velvety, carrying centuries of hunger and obsession. He stepped closer, heat radiating from him like a living flame. Ready to feel what you are, fully, ready to awaken completely. Soren's knees trembled. He wanted to pull away, but he could not. Every nerve, every pulse, every fiber of his being demanded surrender. I'm scared, he admitted, voice small, trembling. What will happen to me? Alaric's gaze softened, yet the fire in his amber eyes never dimmed. Fear is natural, he whispered, letting a finger trace along Soren's jaw, tilting his face toward him. But you are not alone. I am here. Every moment, every heartbeat. I am yours, and you are mine. The words sent a shiver down Soren's spine. His body ached to reach out, to collapse into the warmth, the danger, the obsession radiating from Alaric. And then the pulse hit, a thrum of energy through his veins, his blood singing with power. The veil inside him uncoiling like a living thing. Soren gasped as the first surge of transformation coursed through him. Shadows twisted along the edges of his vision, fog and darkness bending toward him, resonating with the fire of Alaric's presence. Every sense sharpened, every heartbeat echoed in symphony with the vampire beside him. Alaric stepped even closer, lips brushing Soren's ear. Feel it, the fire, the hunger, the pull, it is yours. You are becoming extraordinary. And I cannot resist claiming every part of you. Soren's breath caught. The desire, the fear, the intoxicating obsession, it surged within him, overwhelming. He could feel Alaric's hunger pressing against him. Every movement, every gaze, every subtle touch a tether binding them together. Alaric, I can feel it, inside me, burning. Yes, Alaric murmured, fangs gleaming faintly in the mist, amber eyes blazing. And that fire, that pulse, it calls to me, it binds us. You are mine, Soren, all of you, body, blood, soul, and I will not let go. The world seemed to narrow to the space between them, the fog, the night, the pulse of blood and veil and desire. Soren's body arched involuntarily toward Alaric, surrendering, yielding, letting the first true tendrils of power surge through him. The transformation was not just physical. It was a surrender of fear, a surrender of control, a surrender to the night, to Alaric, to the fire that had always been theirs. Alaric's hand trailed down Soren's arm, gripping him lightly, possessively, sending heat and hunger racing through him. You are mine, he whispered, lips hovering near Soren's, and I am undone by you. By your blood, your pulse, your veil, by everything you are. Do you understand? Soren's voice broke, trembling, yet full of clarity, desire, and surrender. Yes, I'm yours. Alaric's lips pressed against his neck, a slow, deliberate kiss that seared through flesh and blood, igniting every nerve ending. The veil surged, shadows bending, blood singing, power roaring through Soren. Every shiver, every pulse, every breath was a declaration of ownership, of obsession, of the bond that would bind them forever. The night wrapped around them, silent witness to the first embrace of shadows, to the surrender of mortal fear to immortal desire. Soren's first true awakening was complete, not just of his blood, not just of his veil, but of the connection, the obsession, the fire that would consume them both. Alaric's hands lingered possessively on Soren's waist, amber eyes glowing like molten gold. "This is only the beginning," he whispered, voice a caress and a command. "The night, the fire, our bond, it will only grow. You are mine, Soren, and I am yours, forever." Soren trembled, chest heaving, heart and pulse alive with fire, shadows, and desire. And in that moment, he knew the truth. There was no turning back. The night had claimed them both, and the slow burn, dark, obsessive desire had reached a dangerous, intoxicating peak. Ravenhurst had changed for Soren. The city that had once been mundane and lifeless now pulsed with energy. Shadows moving with secret intent, whispers curling along every corner. His senses were heightened to a painful clarity, every sound and scent sharpened, every heartbeat in the distance resonating within him. He was no longer merely mortal. Alaric walked beside him, a predator in the mist, eyes gleaming amber, every movement radiating possession and control. "The world you once knew is gone," he murmured, voice low, intoxicating. "The night is ours now, Soren, and every shadow, every whisper, every predator that once threatened you, now bends to me, and soon you will command them too." Soren swallowed, breath catching in his throat. The power surging within him was overwhelming, raw, and intoxicating. Shadows curled toward him instinctively, responding to the pulse of his blood, to the fire of his awakened veil. I can feel it," he whispered. "It's too much, but I don't want it to stop." Alaric's gaze softened, yet the hunger never dimmed. "Good," he murmured, pressing a possessive hand to Soren's waist. "You are mine, Soren. Body, blood, soul, everything. And I will not let anything take you from me. Not this world, not the night, not even yourself." The fog shifted as a sudden presence moved nearby. Another vampire, older and dangerous, emerged from the shadows, drawn to the pulse of Soren's newly awakened blood. Its eyes glinted with hunger and challenge. Alaric's lips curved into a slow, predatory smile. "You see," he whispered, voice husky. "The dangers are real. They always have been. But now, they fear you. They fear me. And together, we are unstoppable." The newcomer lunged, swift and merciless. Alaric moved like a shadow, intercepting it with brutal grace. The fight was over in moments, the threat neutralized, but the surge of adrenaline and power left Soren trembling, every nerve alive. "You see, Soren," Alaric murmured, gripping his chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. "This is only the beginning. Every danger, every predator, every temptation will come for you. And every time, I will claim you, protect you, bind you to me." Soren's pulse raced, chest heaving. Fear and desire mingled, intoxicating and fierce. I understand," he whispered. "I'm yours, completely." Alaric's smile deepened, predatory yet tender. "Yes," he murmured, fingers brushing along Soren's neck. "And now, we begin the next step. You are no longer a mortal on the edge of awakening. You are a creature of the night, bound to me in ways that cannot be broken. And I will show you the pleasures, the power, the obsession of eternity." Soren trembled, blood thrumming, shadows bending toward him like a living embrace. Every nerve burned with anticipation. Every instinct pulled him closer to Alaric. He understood with crystal clarity that there was no turning back. And brisk, Alaric's hand slid possessively along his waist, pulling him close. "The night is ours, Soren," he whispered, lips hovering near his ear. "And you are mine, forever." The fog wrapped around them, the city silent witness to the pulse of blood, obsession, and desire that bound them. And in the darkness of Ravenhurst, Soren felt the full weight of his transformation. The fire of his veil, the intensity of Alaric's obsession, and the beginning of an eternal bond that would consume them both. The night had swallowed Ravenhurst completely, leaving only fog, shadows, and the pulse of power that radiated from Soren. He walked beside Alaric, senses ablaze, every whisper of wind and rustle of shadow amplified into a symphony of awareness. He could feel Alaric's presence behind him, predatory and intoxicating, binding him, claiming him with every heartbeat. "You feel it, don't you?" Alaric murmured, amber eyes glowing like molten gold in the dim mist. "The pull between us, stronger than anything you've ever known. Your blood calls to me, your veil sings, and I am utterly undone." Soren shivered, breath catching, every nerve in his body screamed, alive with desire, fear, and exhilaration. I feel it," he admitted, voice trembling. "It's overwhelming, but I don't want it to stop." Alaric's lips curved into a slow, possessive smile. "Good," he whispered, letting a hand trace along Soren's jaw, thumb brushing lightly over his pulse. "Because I will not let it stop. I will claim every part of you, body, blood, soul, everything. And you will feel the intensity of what it means to be mine." The fog shifted around them, coiling like living fingers, as shadows bent subtly towards Soren, responding to the pulse of his blood, to the fire of his veil, to the possession that radiated from Alaric. Every step, every glance, every brush of skin between them was charged, a slow burn of hunger and desire that made Soren ache. Alaric's voice dropped, low and intoxicating. "Tonight, you will understand the depth of what we share. The bond between us, it is not mere desire. It is obsession, power, eternity itself. And I will not let you go." Soren's knees weakened. I want you," he whispered, surrendering to the storm of emotions, to the pull of the night, to the intoxicating obsession of the vampire who had claimed him. Alaric's fingers pressed possessively to his waist, drawing him closer, amber eyes dark with longing. "Yes," he murmured, lips grazing the shell of Soren's ear. "And I want you utterly. Every heartbeat, every shiver, every pulse of your blood is mine. And you are mine. Understand that, Soren, eternally." The words, the heat, the presence, it was overwhelming, intoxicating. Soren felt the veil surge within him, power and desire twisting together, igniting a fire he could neither control nor resist. Shadows danced around them, coiling, bending, and whispering in response to the pull of their blood and obsession. Alaric's lips trailed down Soren's neck, brushing over the pulse, fangs flashing faintly in the mist. "Feel this," he murmured, voice husky. "A pull of blood, the fire of desire. The connection that binds us. It is not fleeting. It is eternal. And you belong to me completely." Soren gasped, trembling, body arched involuntarily, mind spinning with the storm of sensations. I am yours," he whispered, surrendering fully. "All of me, mine, for you." Alaric's amber eyes burned, hunger and obsession, colliding with tenderness and reverence. "Yes," he breathed, pressing a deliberate, searing kiss to Soren's throat, letting the heat, the fire, the pulse of blood, and the surge of the veil consume them both. Forever, mine and mine alone. The fog swirled around them like a lover, shadows bending in harmony with their pulse. The night itself, bearing witness to the claim, the obsession, and the bond that had become unbreakable. Soren trembled, breathless, consumed, and utterly aware that he would never, could never, escape the fire that was Alaric, the night, and the veil that now bound them in a dangerous, intoxicating eternity. In time, the night had grown heavy, suffused with shadows that whispered threats only Soren could hear. Ravenhurst's streets were alive with predators drawn to his awakened veil, to the pulse of his blood, to the undeniable fire he carried within. Every instinct screamed caution, yet beside him Alaric moved like a storm, protective, possessive, and impossibly intoxicating. "You feel it, don't you?" Alaric murmured, amber eyes glowing in the fog. "Every predator, every danger, every shadow in this city knows your blood, and every one of them fears me, fears us. But the pull, the temptation, it will never stop. It is eternal, and so is what binds us." Soren shivered, senses ablaze, body trembling. The veil inside him pulsed violently, every heartbeat synchronized with Alaric's, every nerve vibrating with desire, fear, and exhilaration. I feel it," he whispered, "and I don't want to be anywhere else but with you." Alaric's hand gripped his waist possessively, drawing him closer, amber eyes blazing with hunger and obsession. "Good," he murmured, voice low and intoxicating. "Because once we cross this threshold, there is no turning back. The bond between us, blood, veil, desire, it is irreversible. You are mine, and I am utterly undone by you." A shadow flickered at the edge of Soren's vision. Another vampire, older, vicious, testing the boundaries of their claim. Without hesitation, Alaric intercepted it, moving with lethal grace. Within moments, the threat was neutralized, left trembling before the sheer force radiating from Alaric and the awakened pulse in Soren's veins. "You see?" Alaric whispered, pressing his forehead to Soren's. "This world is dangerous, but it bends to us. The night, the shadows, the power inside you, it cannot be broken, and neither can what I have claimed. You are mine, utterly, eternally." Soren's breath caught, pulse racing. The danger, the power, the fire of Alaric's obsession, it consumed him, drew him, made him ache with a need he had never known. "I am yours," he whispered, voice breaking with surrender. "All of me, mine, for you." Alaric's lips brushed the shell of his ear, fangs flashing faintly in the mist. "Yes," he murmured, letting his hands roam possessively over Soren's body, every touch igniting the fire of the veil within him. "Forever, mine, and mine alone. No predator, no shadow, no force in this world can take you from me. You are bound to me, as I am bound to you." The fog curled around them, shadows bending in harmony with their pulse, the night itself bearing witness to the irrevocable claim. Soren felt the full weight of the bond, of the obsession, of the fire that linked them. A bond that could not be broken, a desire that could not be denied, a connection that would consume them both in the most exquisite way. Alaric pressed his lips to Soren's, slow, deliberate, claiming him with a kiss that seared through flesh and blood, fusing them in mind, body, and soul. A veil pulsed violently, shadows danced, and the city seemed to hold its breath. "I am yours, Alaric," Soren whispered against his lips, completely, eternally. Alaric's amber eyes glimmered with triumph, obsession, and something tender beneath the hunger. "And I am yours, Soren," he murmured, fangs grazing lightly along his neck. "Forever, bound, consumed, and utterly obsessed with every part of you." The night held them in its embrace, silent witness to the fire, obsession, and irrevocable bond that had formed. Shadows whispered, fog curled, and Ravenhurst itself seemed to pulse in response to the intensity between them. And in that darkness, Soren and Alaric knew the truth. Their connection was eternal, their obsession irreversible, and their desire consuming beyond measure. The night was heavy, alive with shadows and whispers, the city of Ravenhurst holding its breath as two forces intertwined, blood, veil, desire, obsession. Soren stood close to Alaric, every nerve ablaze, every heartbeat echoing the pull of the other. He was no longer mortal, no longer merely Soren. He was veil and blood, fire and shadow, bound irrevocably to the vampire who had claimed him. Alaric's amber eyes glimmered with hunger and possessive reverence. "Tonight," he murmured, voice low and mesmerizing, "we are no longer just two souls drawn together. We are one. Your pulse, your fire, your veil, it is mine, and I am utterly yours." Soren trembled, breath catching. I am yours," he whispered, surrendering fully, body and soul, completely, eternally, for you. Alaric's lips brushed his, slow, deliberate, a kiss that seared through every layer of restraint, every shred of fear. Fangs grazed lightly against his neck, igniting a fire that roared through him. Shadows bent toward them, fog curling in rhythm with their pulse, the city itself a silent witness to the intensity of their bond. "You belong to me," Alaric whispered, hands roaming possessively, claiming every inch of Soren. "Every heartbeat, every shiver, every drop of blood, mine. And I am undone by you, obsessed, consumed, and bound forever." Soren gasped, trembling against the fire of Alaric's presence. "And I am yours," he breathed, voice trembling with ecstasy and surrender. "All of me, every part, for you, forever." The veil pulsed violently, Soren's blood singing in resonance with Alaric's, shadows bending and swirling around them. They were no longer separate entities, but a singular force, obsession, desire, and eternal claim fused into one. Every touch, every breath, every heartbeat was a tether that could never be broken. Alaric pressed him to his chest, lips grazing the shell of his ear. "We are eternal, Soren. You and I, the fire in your veins, the pulse of your blood. It calls to me across time and shadow, and now nothing can take you from me. Not predator, not mortal, not fate. You are mine, and I am irrevocably yours." Soren shivered, heat and desire coursing through him like wildfire. "Forever," he whispered, voice breaking. "Completely, forever yours." Alaric's hands gripped him possessively, lips pressing to his neck in a kiss that seared and claimed, fangs grazing lightly, every motion a reminder of the obsession that bound them. "Forever," he echoed, voice thick with hunger, reverence, and possessive love. "Eternally, undeniably, in body, in blood, in soul. You are mine, Soren, and I am utterly, irrevocably yours." The night itself seemed to pulse with their bond. Fog curled, shadows danced, and the city held its breath as two beings surrendered completely to obsession, desire, and love that defied mortality. The veil had fully awakened within Soren, his power intertwined with Alaric's, every heartbeat a symphony of fire, hunger, and eternal devotion. And in that eternal darkness, they found everything: power, desire, obsession, and love beyond measure. Ravenhurst had become their domain, the night their sanctuary, and the bond between them unbreakable, consuming, eternal. They were no longer just Alaric and Soren. They were one, veil and blood, shadow and fire, obsession and desire, fused into a single, unstoppable force. And in the pulse of the night, they knew it. Nothing would ever separate them again. The eternal claim was complete.